dear friends. Today, we continue the bittersweet love story of Truong and Tiêunu, two souls who once loved each other deeply, only to be cruelly torn apart by fate. Time has passed, and though everything seems buried in the past, both still carry scars, fragments of memories that never truly healed. And yet, there are invisible threads that destiny quietly ties again. One soft golden afternoon, Tiêunu happens to visit a kind old woman, the same woman who once took care of a young man who lost his memory after a terrible accident. What she doesn't know is that man is Truong, the one her heart has never stopped calling out for in the loneliest nights. The wooden gate creaks open. A gentle breeze sweeps across the porch, making Tiêunu's dress sway lightly. On the other side of the house, Truong is chopping wood, the afternoon light falling across a face changed by time and the wounds of forgotten memories. Two people separated by a single wall, yet divided by a lifetime of longing. Will destiny let them recognize each other again? Will their wounded hearts be brave enough to reach out once more? Stay tuned, because this reunion could change everything. The sky had yet to brighten completely. A thin veil of mist, soft as white silk, lay across the hills. Dewdrops clung to each blade of grass, shimmering like silver under the drowsy light of dawn. In the distance, the crowing of roosters blended with the gentle rustle of rice fields heavy with golden grains. The world was still and quiet, only the breath of the earth and the rhythm of farmers beginning a new day. Through that morning mist, Tiêunu appeared. She wore an old brown blouse, her long hair neatly tied back, a conical hat shading half her face. Every step she took seemed to move in harmony with the pulse of the dawn, slow, steady, and full of grace. No one would have recognized the city girl she once was, the one who feared the sun and hated the mud. Now, she was a true countrywoman. Calloused hands, sun-kissed skin, yet eyes still soft and gentle, holding a quiet sorrow that had no name. She bent down to harvest the rice, the sound of the sickle slicing through stalks, echoing like a slow, melancholic tune of the harvest season. Each cut, each bundle gathered as if she were collecting fragments of memories from another life. Amid the scent of ripe grain, her heart stirred. Old memories returned afternoons when Truong held her hand as they walked along the dike, the wind teasing her hair, their laughter mingling with the song of birds. They once dreamed of building a small house amidst the golden fields, of raising ducks, growing vegetables, and nurturing children in simple love. Now, all of it had faded into silence. She lifted her gaze toward the distance. The mountain range was still shrouded in mist, standing just as it had before. Only her heart had changed. Her eyes held sadness, but no more tears. Perhaps when pain lingers long enough, even tears learn to dry. A soft wind swept past, lifting a few strands of her hair. She raised a hand to brush them aside and froze. For a brief moment, she thought she heard his voice. "Tiêunu, don't be afraid. I am here." That whisper echoing from her memories, light as breath, made her heart skip painfully. She exhaled a long, quiet sigh. The longing no longer burned. As before, it had settled deep within her like sediment at the bottom of a river. From afar came the cheerful voices of village women. Tiêunu smiled faintly, trying to blend into their rhythm of life, as if a smile could hide every wound. She hoisted the bundles of rice onto her shoulders and began walking down the damp earthen path, her trousers stained with mud, yet her eyes shining because here, despite the hardship, she could live, she could begin again. By the edge of the field, an old woman called out, "Tiêunu, take a rest, child. Have some water before you get too tired." She set the bundle down and smiled, accepting the bowl of rainwater. The cool sweetness spread across her tongue and sank deep into her heart like a quiet comfort. "Thank you, Auntie," she said softly. "The weather's beautiful today, isn't it?" The old woman chuckled kindly. "Yes, it is. And the heart should be just as beautiful, my dear." Tiêunu bowed her head in silence. "My heart was once beautiful," she thought. "But perhaps the storms have worn it down." Far away, the first rays of sunlight broke through the mist, glinting on the droplets that clung to her hair like tiny crystals. The scene turned tender and serene, as if heaven itself was wrapping her in a warm embrace, gently thawing a heart that had been cold for far too long. She whispered to herself, her voice as soft as the wind, truong, "Wherever you are, do you still remember me?" No one answered. Only the wind carried her question away, mingling with birdsong and the rustling of the rice, composing a quiet, wistful melody of the morning. She bent down again, continuing her work. Each bundle she gathered grew heavier, but her heart felt lighter. Perhaps these humble, labor-filled days had taught her that when you can't forget, you learn to live alongside the memory. And somewhere within that fragile mist, it felt as though a pair of eyes were watching her, warm, familiar, as if Truong himself were standing there smiling at the woman he once loved. A breeze passed by, lifting a few loose strands of her hair, and with it a sigh so soft it vanished into the pure, peaceful morning of the countryside. The early sunlight began to slip through the fading mist, painting the fields in soft gold. Tiêunu and the old woman sat by the edge of the rice field beside the piles of freshly harvested grain. The scent of dry straw mingled with the damp earth, creating that familiar, humble fragrance, simple, rustic, yet enough to make one's heart ache. A quiet moment passed. Tiêunu suddenly spoke, her voice small and trembling, as if afraid of her own question. "Grandma, have you ever loved someone but couldn't say it?" The old woman lifted her head slightly. Her aged eyes still shone bright, and a kind smile appeared on her wrinkled face. Her hands kept tying bundles of rice, slow, steady, practiced as though she had done it her whole life. At my age, if I hadn't loved, how could I have all these children and grandchildren? she said, her voice soft and warm. But love without saying it, yes. There are feelings that are meant to be kept quietly in the heart. Tiêunu smiled faintly, but her lips quivered as though holding back tears. There was someone once, kind, gentle, and warm. He used to say he'd protect me for the rest of my life. But then there was an accident, and he disappeared. No one ever heard from him again. I searched everywhere, asked so many people. All I got were shaking heads. She paused, clutching the fabric of her shirt tightly, her voice breaking. Sometimes I think maybe he's forgotten me, or maybe he's no longer in this world. The wind swept across the fields, making the golden stalks bow and rustle as if whispering comfort. Tiêunu lowered her head, her lashes damp and trembling. The morning light fell across her face, half bright, half shadowed, reflecting the unfinished sorrow within her soul. But every morning, she continued in a choked voice, I still see him in my dreams. The way he smiled, the way he called my name across the fields, his voice carried by the wind. It keeps echoing in my mind, as if he's still somewhere close, only I can't see him. The old woman fell silent. Her weathered hands stopped mid-motion. A handful of rice slipped and fell softly to the ground. Something flickered in her eyes, a mix of compassion and thoughtfulness. My dear, she said gently, her voice low and warm, like the earth itself. Some people leave, but the love they leave behind stays with us forever. Sometimes they're still alive. They've just lost their way home. Tiêunu looked up at her. Do you think he could still be alive? The old woman smiled, her gaze distant. In this life, nothing is impossible. Some who were thought gone return one day. Some who were thought to have forgotten still carry you in their hearts as a memory that never fades. Tiêunu turned toward the mountains in the distance where soft white clouds drifted lazily across the peaks. For a moment, warmth seeped into her chest, a fragile hope, yet enough to make her feel alive again. Grandma, she whispered, sometimes I just feel so tired. Every time I think of him, I want to cry. But then I remind myself to be strong. He once told me, if one day I'm not by your side, you must live well, okay? The old woman nodded. Yes, you should live well. Sometimes living well is the only way to let the one you love find peace wherever they are. Who knows? Maybe because you still keep that faith, heaven will bring the two of you together again. Tiêunu fell silent, her hands tightening around the bundle of rice as if holding on to a piece of memory. The breeze swept by again, gentler this time. The golden field shimmered beneath a now clear sky. From afar came the laughter of children and the barking of dogs. Life went on peaceful as ever. Thank you, Grandma Tiêunu said softly, bowing her head. Hearing you speak makes my heart feel lighter. The old woman smiled, picking up the fallen bundle. Everyone carries pain, child. What matters is learning to plant faith again. Like the rice, you cut it down so it can grow back stronger next season. Tiêunu looked at her, smiling through her tears. You sound just like him." The old woman hesitated slightly, surprise flickering in her eyes. Then she smiled again kindly. "Is that so? Perhaps that's fate, my dear." They both smiled, though each carried a quiet ache inside. The eastern sky had turned bright. A small bird flew across, leaving a thin black trail against the pale blue morning. Lytieunu watched it and whispered, "Maybe. If the heart stays true, people will always find their way back." The old woman nodded slowly, her gaze lost in the distance. "Yes, child, true love never disappears. It only loses its way for a little while." The morning breeze drifted softly across the fields, stirring the golden heads of rice. Sunlight slowly melted away the thin veil of mist, revealing glimmering streaks of light scattered over the paddies. Lytieunu and the old woman still sat by the edge of the field, each lost in thought. When the old woman finished tying the last bundle of rice, she looked up, her eyes kind and gentle. "My dear," she said softly, "hearing your story makes my heart ache. When love runs deep, no matter how many years pass, it never really leaves you. Perhaps heaven just hasn't allowed you two to meet again yet, but that doesn't mean it's gone." Lytieunu smiled faintly, her eyes fixed on the hazy fields beyond. "I hope so too," she murmured, her voice low and wistful. Then, as if remembering something, the old woman set the bundle of rice down, wiped her hands on her shirt, and turned toward Lytieunu with a thoughtful expression. "Oh, that reminds me," she said slowly, smiling. "There's a young man staying with me not far from here. Such a kind boy. Works hard, never complains. He had an accident last year, but by some miracle, he survived." Lytieunu turned sharply, her eyes widening. "An accident? Last year?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," the old woman nodded. "They found him by the river behind the village. His body was covered in injuries, and he had no papers. Nothing to tell who he was. I took pity on him and brought him home to care for. Since he woke up, he hasn't remembered anything. His mind is like a blank page." A soft gust passed through, making the scarf on Lytieunu's head flutter. Her heart tightened as if something unseen had gripped it. "He lost his memory," she whispered, barely daring to breathe. "That's right," the woman replied, her voice tinged with sadness. "Poor thing. At first he was frightened, didn't speak at all. Later he began helping around, feeding the chickens, watering the garden, harvesting in the fields. Whenever someone passed by, he'd stare at them for a long time. Sometimes he'd stop working suddenly and gaze off into the distance, like he was searching for someone." The woman sighed. "I think there's something or someone his heart still remembers, even if his mind does not." Lytieunu froze. Each word the old woman spoke struck her heart like a quiet blow. Her breath caught in her throat. Under the morning sun, her eyes glistened. She didn't know if it was dew or tears welling up. "Grandma," she said softly, struggling to keep her voice steady. What? What does he look like?" The old woman smiled kindly, unaware of the storm rising within the girl beside her. "He's a head taller than me, strong and well-built, with a gentle face. And there's a small scar on his forehead, probably from the accident. He doesn't talk much, but he's polite. Every morning he goes to the fields, and at night he sits on the porch just staring at the moon. Each word felt like a knife twisting in Tieunu's chest. The scar, the quiet posture, the way he stared into the distance. All of it, the image of Truong, the man she had searched for endlessly. She lowered her head, biting her lip to hold back a sob. Her fingers clenched the fabric of her shirt so tightly that her knuckles turned white. A storm of emotions surged inside her. Disbelief, fear, hope, and that faint, desperate faith she had buried deep in her heart. The old woman continued speaking, her voice calm and unaware of the tremor in Tieunu's soul. "He's been living with me for almost a year now. I treat him like family. The villagers like him too. They say he has a lucky, kind face. Once I teased him, asked, 'Do you have someone you love?' He just smiled and said, 'I don't remember, but I feel like someone is waiting for me somewhere.'" Those words hit Tieu like a blade through her chest. Her heart trembled, her vision blurred. A single tear slid down her cheek and soaked into her sleeve, warm and trembling. She wiped it away quickly and forced a shaky smile. "Grandma, May I visit him?" The old woman smiled gently, not noticing the trembling in her voice. "Of course, dear. My house is just down the hill, about a 5-minute walk. When we finish here, come by. I'll cook lunch. I'm sure he'll be glad to have company. We rarely get visitors." Tieu nodded softly. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered, lowering her gaze to hide the tears in her eyes. The whole field seemed to fall silent. The wind, the birds, even the rustling rice, all slowed, as if the world itself held its breath for her fragile hope. Just a simple story, just a few passing words. But to Tieu, it was the faint light piercing through the darkness of her long, lonely search. In her heart, she whispered, "Truong, is it really you?" And once again, her tears fell quietly, like dewdrops dissolving in the morning sun. The sun had climbed higher, burning away the last traces of mist and leaving behind a clear, warm morning air. After the harvest, the old woman called out to Tieu, "Come on, dear, come over to my house. Have a simple country meal with me, and I'd like to introduce you to the young man who's been staying here. Who knows, maybe you two will get along." She smiled playfully, her tone teasing. Tieu forced a small smile and nodded. "Thank you, Grandma. I'd love to visit." They followed a narrow dirt path down the hill. On both sides stood rows of old bamboo, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze. Sunlight streamed through in golden streaks along the well-worn path marked by buffalo tracks. From afar drifted the smell of home, the fragrance of freshly cooked rice, braised fish, and wood smoke, a warmth that wrapped around the heart. "My house is just over there," the old woman said, pointing toward a small wooden home tucked beneath a line of beetle palms. A few banana trees bore green bunches of fruit. Sparrows fluttered across a mossy tile roof. It was a peaceful, humble scene, one that seemed untouched by pain or loss. As they stepped through the bamboo gate, Lytieunu suddenly stopped. On the porch stood a man splitting firewood. The sunlight slanted across his figure, casting his shadow onto the ground. Sweat glistened on his forehead. His sleeves were rolled up his arms strong, a silhouette achingly familiar. Lytieunu froze. Her heart pounded with fear, disbelief, and fragile hope. The old woman called out cheerfully, "Truong, we have a guest, my boy." Lytieunu's breath caught. That name, Truong, struck her like thunder. She stared at the man before her. He looked up, his eyes deep and gentle, but there was no recognition in them. "Good morning, ma'am," he said softly, his voice low and slightly hoarse. His gaze lingered on her face for a brief moment before drifting away, as if something in him recognized her, but memory refused to surface. The old woman chuckled, gesturing between them. "This is Miss Nu from the next village. She helped me harvest today. Such a sweet, hard-working girl. And this is Truong, the young man I told you about. He's like a son to me now." Lytieunu bowed slightly, her voice trembling. "Hello, sir." She tried to smile, but her lips quivered. Truong nodded, smiling kindly. "Hello." In that moment, a breeze swept in from the fields, carrying the scent of freshly cut straw. A few petals from the beetle palm drifted down, landing softly on their shoulders. Everything seemed to pause, except the sound of Lytieunu's heart pounding wildly and unevenly. The old woman headed inside, calling back with a laugh, "Sit down, you two. I'll start the fire and cook lunch. Truong, get our guest a drink." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. He disappeared inside and returned with a bowl of clear rainwater. As he set it down before her, their hands brushed just barely. A jolt shot through Lytieunu, a familiar spark that made her breath hitch. That feeling, she could never mistake it. It was him. "Please have some water," he said gently. "You must be tired from walking." She looked up at him. In his eyes, she saw the same warmth, the gaze she had once fallen in love with, beyond time, beyond reason. But he didn't see her. His eyes were calm, kind, and empty. "How long have you been here?" she asked, trying to steady her voice. "Over a year," he said. "The old lady took me in, so I help her with chores. I don't remember who I was before." His voice softened. "Sometimes I dream of a girl standing in the fields, her long hair blowing in the wind, her back to me. Every time I wake up, I feel this ache in my chest, like I've lost something important." Lytieunu trembled. Her hand clenched the fabric of her shirt. She wanted to cry out, "It's me, Truong. I'm right here." But her throat tightened. and only a shaky breath came out. He turned toward her, concern in his voice. "Are you all right? You look pale." She quickly shook her head, forcing a smile. "No, I'm fine. It's just the wind feels a little strong." From the kitchen, the old woman called, "Truong, light the stove for me, dear. Miss Nu will stay for lunch." "Yes, ma'am," he answered. He got up and walked toward the kitchen. Lytieunu watched him, the way he crouched to light the fire, the smoke curling gently in the sunlight. Such a simple, ordinary moment, and yet it ached deep inside her chest. She turned away quietly, wiping a tear from her cheek. He was right there, only a few steps away. And yet his memories were somewhere far beyond her reach. The old woman came back and noticed her silence. "What's wrong?" dear Lytieunu smiled, faintly brushing her tears away. "Nothing. It's just your home feels so peaceful." The old woman smiled kindly. "Yes, there's nothing here but fields and kind hearts. Everyone who comes here finds a little peace, my dear." Lytieunu nodded softly, but inside, her heart felt both heavy and light, a strange mix of relief and pain. She looked through the doorway where Truong was tending the fire. The smoke and sunlight blurred his figure, yet that glow, that warmth, was still the same one she had loved, believed in, and waited for. And in that moment, she whispered to herself so quietly, only her heart could hear, "You may not remember me, but I have never forgotten you." My dear friends, if you were Lytieunu, after all those months of waiting and heartbreak, and now the person you love is standing right in front of you, but he no longer remembers you, what would you do? Would you dare to tell the truth, to say, "It's me, the one you once promised to protect for a lifetime"? Or would you stay silent, remain by his side, and wait for his memories to return on their own? Some people say, true love doesn't need words, it only needs to be felt. But others believe that if you never speak up, that person may go through their whole life never knowing how long you've waited for them. So, what about you? If it were you, would you choose to confess everything, even if it means being rejected? Or would you keep it in your heart, quietly staying beside him, afraid that the truth might hurt him all over again? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, because sometimes your words might help Lytieunu decide what to do in the next episode. And don't forget to subscribe, so you won't miss the most important moment when Truong begins to remember and realizes that the woman he's been searching for is Lytieunu.